Time travel is a staple of all kinds of fiction, so obviously it's going to be in movies. So I'm interested in looking at the different ways that people time travel, because obviously some of them are going to be better than others. Let's give them letter grades and decide which is the best way to time travel that we've seen in movies. So let's go ahead and start off with the one that really started it all, the time machine. We're going to be talking pros and cons on all of these. So pros. This thing is a time machine, right? So you get to choose where you go, pretty much. You can't go through space at all, right? You're stuck where you are, which is, it's realistic, but maybe not the most exciting. It can be stolen, right? Like in all of these movies, something's going to go wrong with your time machine. What can happen with this one is like you can get separated from it, and it can be stolen from you, and you can't get back to it, so then you can't get back home. So with this one, I mean, it works. I don't think we really have to worry about it breaking. I don't think that that's something that comes up in the movie. I don't remember that being a plot point. So I think on this one, I think it's a good B. It started a solid B. It works. It gets you where you're going. More importantly, it gets you back home, which is something that a lot of time machines we're going to find do not do. Next up, we have maybe the most famous time machine in movies, the DeLorean from Back to the Future. And this is going to just cover all time machines that are cars. And this one is going to be, I think, an A-. We're going to land on A-. It's better than the other time machine because it's mobile, right? It's not from the time machine. That thing can't move around that easily. This is a car, so you can drive it around. Once it gets upgraded and you have the ability to not need the plutonium to do the time traveling with the Mr. Fusion, then you definitely are upgraded, right? And it can fly too. By the end of the series, this is definitely better than the time machine. But there's still problems that can happen with it, right? In Back to the Future 3, you run out of gas. So then what do? It can accidentally get struck by lightning, and then you get sent back to where you're not supposed to go. But everybody does end up back where they want to be at the end of the series. And so for me, that's going to be satisfactory. Plus, it's a cool car. So it looks awesome. So I'm going to give it an A- just because there are better things to come. And we're going to talk about those better things right now. We're really starting off really strong when it comes to time travel. We're going to get to some of the more like messed up things later. In all of the Bill and Ted movies, Bill and Ted Excellent Adventure, Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, Bill and Ted Face the Music, they time travel using a phone booth, which granted is a little outdated in and of itself, but I think it's probably the best that we've ever seen, right? Time travel wise. It can get you where you want to go. It's easy enough for these guys who are not very smart to use it successfully. It can travel through time and space, like they're going to different parts of the world. They're not just stuck in the one spot where they are. And then the way that time travel works in this movie too is just really, really good and really fun, and always works out in the hero's favor, which if we're going to be doing time travel, that's what we want to have happen. So Bill and Ted's phone booth is that's an A+. We're kind of keeping with technology being the way that time travel happens here at the beginning of our list. And time travel, a movie that I don't know, sometimes I kind of forget is a time travel movie because it's more about the robots for me, is the Terminator movies. And the way time travel works in these is the machines designed this big machine. The machines designed a machine. The robots designed a machine that will send back, or maybe it wasn't the robots. Somebody designed a machine. Who designed it? All right, so it looks like in the original script, it was the machines. And that makes sense because of who's going back in time first. So in the Terminator movies, the time machine, which was built by the machines, sends back a person or like a flesh-covered robot to the past, to a specific time, specific place, right? It doesn't necessarily it isn't like necessarily where you are, so it's not bound to the limits of space. Time and space are both manipulated with this. But when you go back, you can't take anything with you. You can't take, like, you're naked when you show up, and it looks like an uncomfortable thing to be coming to the past in. It's also a one-way trip. Well, I mean, it's uncomfortable because you're naked and then you fall to the ground, like Kyle Reese does. It's a one-way trip, which for me is like a no-go. Like, I want to be able to come back, right? If we're just talking about which ones are better. So, I mean, it's good at doing what it is designed to do, but what it's designed to do is not good enough for me. I'm going to give the time travel in the Terminator a C-. Next up, we have Looper. Time travel in this one is even worse. I mean, like, what time travel is used for is not great, right? It's used to execute people that the mob wants dead because it's too hard to kill people in the future. I'm going to be super simplifying some of these because they're just not, I don't want to spend a ton of time describing everything that happens. So the way that it works in Looper is there is a machine box thing that, like, you can put somebody in and then they get teleported back in time exactly, let's read it, 30 years, 3 months, 2 days, 8 hours, and 5 seconds into the past. So that's where he gets into, and you always show up like in this one spot. And so the assassins know where to kill you, and they get the note that's saying, like, what's going on. Time travel in Looper works, again, like Terminator, in that you can't go back, right? These are the set rules. Time travel can't be adjusted. Time travel is a one-way ticket. Both versions of you can exist because the person that you're killing, you at the end of your contract as the killer, is yourself, right? That's how they tie the loop up. Time travel is illegal, which makes sense. If time travel was real, I mean, that's why there's time cops. I'm not talking about time cop in this video. Sorry to disappoint. Let me know in the comments below what you would rate time cops, time travel. You can communicate across time, and then the future has infinite possibilities, which means they change stuff. Like, people get hurt in the past, and then it changes how they are in the future and stuff. And so, it's not a good one, right? You have to be a specific place to do it. It's a one-way ticket. You can only go back an exact amount of time, which makes it worse than Terminators. I'm going to give it D+. D+ for Looper. I wouldn't want to go on that trip. It doesn't seem like a fun one to go on. Again, remember, we're not ranking these movies. A movie can have a type of time travel I don't want to go on and still be really good. I really enjoy Looper. I really enjoy most of these movies, but doesn't mean I want to go through their time travel situation. Another time travel movie that has technology being the way that they go to the past is Avengers Endgame. This is one of the more recent ones, not quite the most recent. They go through the quantum realm, so they have a big machine that shrinks everybody down, and then they navigate through all of that. It's one of the more, I mean, they're all silly, right? Time travel is just silly in general. It doesn't really try to make sense of it. The rules of how time travel changes the future, or in the case of Avengers Endgame, doesn't change the future, is what the movie is more interested in, not how you do it. You only have a certain amount of gas, right? You can only have a certain amount of trips you can go on. So that's going to limit it for me. Now, that you could just say, well, that's only because Hank Pym's not around. But this thing gets blown up at the end of the movie, and Iron Man, the guy who made it, he's dead. So you're not really going to be getting another one. You can go anywhere, though. You can go anywhere time-wise and space-wise, which is good. I like that. It is a trip back. You do have a trip back. I think I'm going to give this one a C. We'll go C. It seems very dangerous, though. I mean, it isn't like, I don't know. It's not Bill and Ted, where it's just automatic. It's fine, and you can be outside the car and while you're going through the time circuits and everything. It's like, I feel like if you take the wrong turn in the quantum zone and you're just not coming back from that. So yeah, that one, see, it'll get the job done. It wouldn't be my first pick, but it's definitely not awful. Let's go with Tenet. This is one I'm definitely going to oversimplify. Tenet, essentially the way time travel works in this movie is you go into a turntable thing that makes it so you start experiencing time going backwards instead of forwards. But you do it in real time. So if you want to go back in time 10 minutes, you have to go into the machine that makes it so you can go back in time, stay going backwards for 10 minutes, and then come back through the machine. And then you're 10 minutes in the past. So it's effective, right? It works, but you are bound to where you are physically, not necessarily physically where you go into the machine, but physically where you are. So it's a different kind of limitation. It's not the exact same as, say, the Time Machine and Back to the Future or the Time Machine and all that stuff. I'm not very patient, so I don't necessarily like the idea of this. It is nice to like correct mistakes and everything, and it does make for some pretty fun action sequences. But when it comes to, I don't know, I mean, you could take naps and stuff. Okay. So if I'm using the Tenet time machine not for the kind of stuff that Tenet uses it for, but just my daily life, I think the Tenet time machine's like pretty awesome. So let's just imagine I need to take a nap. Not only do I have the time to take the nap, but then I can have the time riding back to like the normal time. That's pretty good. Let's give Tenet's time machine. Oh gosh, I'm gonna go A-. It's weird, like it can be too confusing. I'm sure I'm missing some kind of horrible thing that would happen, but I'm gonna go A-. I think it's actually a lot higher than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be really low, but when it comes to real world applications, for me personally, it's pretty good. Way easier to use than the DeLorean. I'm not one to drive that fast usually. So then the last one that we have, which is just solely a technology based time travel, is from the movie The Tomorrow War, which came out with good old what's his face, Chris Pratt. I couldn't remember. It even says it right there, Chris Pratt. They use this machine to go up into the future where they're losing a war, right? And so you have to be like in this big room where they're very concerned about spatial problems, right? So they have to calculate where you're going to be and everything. And that's where you kind of see what the big problems are with this one. Like they go to teleport Chris Pratt and everybody else back in time, and they end up dropping them like from like hundreds of feet in the air in downtown Miami instead of like 5 feet off the ground. And if these scientists who have been doing these calculations for who knows how long can't get this right, I'm definitely not going to be able to do it. I just want to hop in the thing when I like need some time to take in a shower or, want to relive a super cool baseball game or something like that. It's not like I want to go fight aliens. So like, that's not what I'm using this thing for. They do mention how it's really kind of just held together by like spare parts. It's not great. And they know that. You do get to go back. The trips are for a certain amount of time. So you have to deal with that also. Like it's like 7 days or something like that. You're in the future and then you come back. So I don't know. It's definitely not one of my favorite ones. I think I'm going to give it a D+. Go D+ on that one. So now we have a couple that are science-based, but also magic kind of based. The first one of those being the magic scepter from Ninja Turtles 3. And you might say, this is just magic. And I would say, yeah, pretty much. But Donatello does build a scepter that like is working. And it's not the one they actually use to get back and everything. But it does seem to be working. The magic scepter in this that lets you time travel, it has some limitations. You can only time travel back to moments in time where the same amount of people are holding onto the scepter as well. So that's kind of again, very limiting. It doesn't make any sense because it's like if it's like time forever, then it's like, why do they have to be holding the scepter at the same time? Like the same time in the movie isn't necessarily the same time in time. I don't know. This one doesn't make a lot of sense. But I don't like having to rely on somebody else to use this time machine. It's like if there was an elevator and the only time you could ever use the elevator is if there was another person in the other elevator, then you both went up and down at the same time. That's what it would be like. And that sounds like an awful elevator. And so like somebody's going to end up being somewhere they don't want at the end of it, which almost happens in the movie. Some people almost get stuck because they, they're not everybody wants to go back to where they're supposed to be. So with that one, I'm going to give it a C-. Go C- because again, it ends up working. You don't get to choose though. But like the actual act of using the time machine is not dangerous. So we'll go C-. This one is the last magic science kind of one. And this is in Superman. At the end of Superman, there's kind of an infamous scene where it looks like, when you watch the movie, Superman is flying around the world so fast that the world starts spinning the other direction. It's important to realize that that's not actually what's happening. It's showing you visually that Superman is flying so fast that he's going faster than the speed of light, and he is going back in time. And so it just looks like the world is spinning around the other way. And he does this so he can go back in time and save Lois Lane. Anyway, faster than light travel to time travel is, this is what time travel in Star Trek is essentially, and everything too. Unless you're talking about wormholes, which is another kind of time travel that they do in Star Trek, depending which Star Trek you're talking about. But this is what I'm covering with this, faster than light travel. So, I mean, if I was Superman and I could go faster than the speed of light, would I do this that often? I know it seems like it's a big deal, like it's pretty hard to do, but at the same time, he does it and then everything's fixed. So maybe it's worth it. Either way, it does seem like a lot of effort, even for him. So I don't even know how to rate this thing because I can't be Superman. We'll give it like in a movies wise, it's kind of a cheat. And to do it in your first movie, be like, if anybody dies, Superman could just fly around and do it. It's kind of a cheapo move. But really, I mean, I'm going to give it a B. Because if I could do it, sure, I'd do it. Give it a B. Right. Now, Groundhog Day is a movie that I didn't necessarily think of as a time travel movie until like I actually sat down and was like, what are movies where people travel through time? And this is one where I'm going to give it an F. This is not a good one. Not a good way to time travel. Great movie. Fantastic movie. Now let's go D. We're going to go D-. Because there is some silver lining to it, right? He finds ways to do it. In this movie, if you've never seen it, in Groundhog Day, Bill Murray gets trapped living the same day over and over and over again. And whenever he goes to sleep, he wakes up that same morning. And he just does that for a long time. Thousands and thousands of days. Enough where he can learn how to do a crazy amount of stuff. He memorizes everything that happens in the town. He's essentially speed running the day, like at the end of it. He's like getting every achievement. If it was a video game in like one run. And it's very fun to watch. But it would be pretty miserable. And you can tell that by the fact that Bill Murray is not in a good place mentally throughout most of this movie. Again, it depends where you are, who you're with. There are some days that, sure, I wouldn't mind living over and over and over again. But then there are some days that if I had to live them over and over and over again, I would be equally in a bad spot. So, yeah, like I said, D- on this one. One of those edgy, super cool, early 2000s movies, The Butterfly Effect. It's a time travel movie where Ashton Kutcher, oh my goodness, I'm trying too hard. Ashton Kutcher, he travels back in time to different points in his life where he's like had these blackouts, and he's trying to fix everything, right? But every time he goes back to fix things, he ends up like making things worse. And yeah, I wouldn't want to do that at those specific set times that were probably pretty bad to be jumping back to. Not something that I would want to be doing. Also, like time travel where you're hurting everybody around you this much by just going back and changing these little things is not good. I would feel like you'd do it one time and then I'd be like, I can never do that again, right? You would try to go back and fix it, and then if you made it even worse, you're like, well, I should just stop now because like it's only going to get worse from here. So this one, I don't know, give us a D. I give it a D. I don't like it. I think it's a pretty bad one. Army of Darkness, another magic one. There's a magic book that sends you back in time to a place you don't want to be. You can't really get back to where you want to be easily. Yeah, time travel wise, it's bad. I think this one is going to be, but maybe it's only bad because Ash doesn't know what he's doing. At the end of Evil Dead 2, the book opens up a portal that sends him back in time. But maybe if you figure out how to use the Necronomicon, then it's not that bad. So possibilities opening up a little bit. Let's give this one a C-. It's got potential. Maybe on further edits, we would be okay with this one. So we're in romantic time travel with these last two. We got a good one and we got a bad one. About Time, this one, with Domhnall Gleeson and with Rachel McAdams, is the good one, time travel wise. He pretty much just has to go into like a dark place and think about something here. This is how it describes it in the movie. This is how his dad described it to him when he was teaching him about how to do it. You go into a dark place. Big cupboards are very useful generally. Toilets in a pinch. And then you clench your fists, think about the moment you're going to, and you'll find yourself there. So very simple, right? You do have to be careful when it comes to where you go and what you change. Because like once you have a kid, if you go back before, then it like changes which sperm turns into your kid. And so you have a different kid, which is kind of horrifying. So that's something that kind of makes it a little scary, right? That's not something you have to worry about with Back to the Future. But besides that, like you get some nice closure and everything with different people. Yeah, I don't know. This movie is very pleasant and it's pretty great. Yeah, I think that this one, because of how easy it is, because of, it not being that particularly dangerous, I think that it definitely gets a high grade. And so I'm put it at A- just because of those kind of scary accidents you might cause and how there might not be ways to fix them. So we'll go A-, very strong showing, but not perfect. And then the last one we have, The Time Traveler's Wife. Rachel McAdams has a type, and it is time travelers. Eric Bana in this one, right? He just kind of poofs away. He just randomly disappears, and he's in this lady's life at different points in time. Like in the first time she meets him, she's a little kid, but the first time he meets her, she's not a little kid. So that's a trip already, right? Some of the things that happen in this movie are just crazy. Like, okay, I'll spoil it, but like when he like teleports, like he shows up like naked and stuff when he teleports, and he's like in front of a deer and gets shot by her, I think by her dad. So that's kind of messed up. This is an F. This is an F for sure. You don't get to choose when you're leaving. You don't get to choose where you're going. It's not good. It's a bad one. F for The Time Traveler's Wife. And those are the ones I want to talk about. And so let me know in the comments below, what is your favorite time travel movie? What is your favorite time travel method in movies? I would love to hear them, and maybe let me know if I missed any. We could maybe touch on this again at some other time. Thanks for checking out this video. See you next time. Bye.